So the first question is for you. Uh, when you came here in Australia and what got you in politics now? How you came to politics?
Well, I came to Australia about 20 years ago,
Yeah.
21 years ago actually, and obviously went through all the education and did my jobs, and got married, had a family here, got a house, and then roughly around 2016, 2017, that's when I started getting involved into politics more, because there was that turntable prime ministers happening, which we have seen in India before, and then we had this woke push for woke ideologies into our not just schools but also into political system, that we could start to see that. And the big one was the quota system. So again, we have seen that in India that it doesn't work. Like I remember when Mandal Commission in 1990 that introduced quota systems there. So that was never a good intention, and I didn't want to see that happen here in Australia. And that's why I was looking for a party, and obviously One Nation had some values that I could relate to, and that's how I jumped over. Yeah.
My next question will be the same about your party. Why do you choose One Nation? There are some ruling parties which are coming turn by turn here. Why?
Actually, you have answered your question.
Yeah.
There are the two ruling parties that are coming turn by turn here.
Yeah.
There's no difference in their policies. They're like, basically, if you take away the covering, you will see that they are same thing at the bottom. They don't care about the people. They are only in it for themselves. Liberal and more corporate and business people. Labour was supposed to be more working class people, but they have shunned those values. So when I looked at those parties, I just couldn't relate to those policies anymore. Only One Nation had policies that were actually talking about the ground level people, people on the ground, and issues that they face on everyday basis. That's why I chose One Nation. Yeah.
Mark, my next question is for you. Like Amit says that One Nation party has some basic thing for the common people. What do you think? Which will strike to common people like?
Well, I think for the Hindu community in particular, the importance of the basics in schools. As chair of the Education Committee, I visited schools like Riverbank and Oran Park in recent times, where a big number of students who've come from families from the subcontinent, Indian Hindu background in particular. And those families have moved, say, from Parramatta, Harris Park to the northwest sector, southwest sector of Sydney. And for them, their whole life, as for many of us, is about the next generation. How do we get our children to get good qualifications to become the doctors, scientists, IT specialists, engineers of the future? So schooling is critical, and I've been pushing the idea that we don't need political content in the classroom, we don't need LGBT stuff, we don't need critical race theory or unconscious bias or Black Lives Matter. We need the basics of reading, writing, doing numbers, history, geography, science, the basics of a good solid education for these students, because the schools that I visited, the students there have discipline, they do the homework, the parents care about education. The only thing that's missing is the assurance that the basics are being taught well in the classroom. So that's where we need to head on education, which is so important. And I also mentioned that these communities are moving to live out the great Australian, the great Indian Australian dream of their own home ownership on detached housing in the north and southwest sectors. And one of the big barriers to people moving is the stamp duty that they pay at state level, which can be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 depending on the value of your property. And the state government's been talking about a scheme where people have got a choice, that they can pay a smaller amount over a long period of time. So they haven't got that big upfront barrier, a big upfront financial barrier to moving home. So I very much support that reform, but unlike be talking about it, we should be doing it. And I moved a motion in the upper house to say, let's give people a choice to get away from the practical thing that would really assist the community.
Vivek, I just want to know about your politics experience now. As a first generation migrant, how what are the things have you faced like as challenge here
Like as a challenge in the politics,
in the
or
politics?
well, if you choose the right party, then there are no challenges. It's like people. What happens is most of the Indian community, they are going towards Labour and Liberal Party in the politics, and then obviously there are lot of other people in the party, and they have to fight throughout, But like with One Nation, we are just coming up as a new party. Like we've been there for a long time, but we are still establishing our roots, and our values are the ones that resonate with the people more. So I think I'm in the right party, and that's where I want to pursue further.
What would you like to achieve as an Australian MP?
Sorry, as an
As
Australian.
an Australian MP.
I would like to achieve the best for my electorate. Like we have issues with the cost of living problems. Today, interest rate went up 25 basis points to 0.335%. So that is going to have a major impact on cost of living for people here. And education system is another one. That's where Mark has been doing such a great job in the state parliament. I want to do that same thing from the federal level. And yeah, those are the two big things that I want to focus on.
What do you think? How much Indian politician or Indian community can change the politics here in Australia?
Well, the first thing is that we need to be in the politics. So that it is very important for our community to get involved into the politics. And I pride myself that Indian community is one of the communities that has very much um, integrated very well with the Australian culture and all. And we can do wonders for the politics, and we can bring our experience from the subcontinent. A lot of things that are happening here now, we have already faced those issues back in India, like education, quota system, and politics in the education system. So we can make a big difference. It's only we need to motivate more people to get into politics and be more politically aware. Even if you're not into politics, if you're politically aware, you can still make a difference by casting your vote on the ballot.
Can I just say, Amit ran for us at the state election in Blacktown, did a great job, and is running for Chifley. But if he was to miss out on Chifley seat, I'd very much like to see him in state parliament, because last Saturday I addressed the HOTA, the Hindu organisation of temple associations. 45 temples from across Sydney gathered at Rose Hill. And they were making the point that at the moment, essentially, the community are lobbyists, advocates. How do they get new facilities at Box Hill, Kemps Creek, other places in outer Western Sydney? How do you get influence at the local council level, at state parliament level? And I said, well, become decision makers. We need more people from the Indian Hindu background in councils. I think there's one at the moment at Hornsby, one at Strathfield, not much else. And in state parliament, Daniel Mookie, who's a Labor guy, but he's more a trade union Labor representative than standing up for that particular community. So it's very important to get people, no matter their politics, running for office. That the Hindu community should be more than advocates and lobbyists. They should be decision makers. So having Amit as a very important part of One Nation on our executive, our state treasurer,
My last question today, and this is about some allegation, and pardon me if I am a little blunt about it. There is something like One Nation is anti-Muslim and anti-migrant. What would you share?
Well, this is not true. I'm the only one in state parliament who's moved a religious freedom bill that's been supported by the Islamic community and the Hindu community, the Jewish community, Catholics, Anglican, Christians across the board. So I've worked productively with the Islamic community to say that whatever perception was 25 years ago is not valid now for New South Wales One Nation, and the work that I do and Rod Roberts, our other representative, does. So our attitude there is to be racially and religiously neutral, but also recognising that some groups like the Hindu community are very much underrepresented and need a seat at the table. And on the immigration question, it's true we don't support huge immigration numbers for Australia because it makes it harder for the people who live here now to get a job, to buy a home, to get a wage increase. So our attitude is that Australians must set an immigration level that works for the people who live here now. And it's not 250, 300,000 a year, it's a lot lower than that. So we're not against any community, but we are very much in favour of all Australians moving forward, whether it's home ownership, getting a job, getting a wage increase, religious freedom, parental rights, better schools. We don't look at anyone other than the individual and their merit. And I've got to say the Hindu community have been wonderful contributors to our country. I can't think of a community that's done more for setting up businesses. I said at Potter on Saturday when the Indian community has arrived in Australia, the first door they knock on is not Centrelink, it's a door to get a job and set up a business. And that's a fantastic work ethic, and what's happening in our schools is tremendous as well. So this is a community that deserves every support because they're working hard, studying hard, supporting the best things for Australia, and we support them.
Can I just add something there? Like One Nation, as Mark said, we are not against migrants. We are not against any particular community. It is the number of migrations. There is a big difference between being against a migrant and being against the uncontrolled number of migrants. So that is totally different thing. Labor and Liberal parties and anti-migrant party because they don't have anything else to question us on. They never have discussions on our policies. The important thing is that this is a fear-mongering campaign. We don't give any heed to it, and look at our policies, and you will see how they relate to the common people on the ground, irrespective of their cultural background, irrespective of their religion. Our policies impact everyone at the same level, at their broad spectrum policies, and that's what we bring to the table.
Yeah, look at our policies and look at Amit. You've got our state executive, someone I want to see in state parliament. He's got to be part of a push to make sure that the Hindu community has a seat at the table. Decision makers, not lobbyists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.